A plasmalogen is a special type of phospholipid. Now, phospholipids are one of the most important molecules in the human body. The human body is made up of trillions of small cells. Each of these cells of your body are three-dimensional spheres or cubes. They're like the rooms of a large apartment building. And what separates one cell from another is called a membrane. And so all the walls of an apartment building are like the membranes in the human body. And it is the membranes of the human body that give the body the structure. Otherwise, we would just be soup on the ground. Phospholipids are what the body uses to make membranes. And a phospholipid is like a soap in that it has, and they're called a zwitterion, or they're called emulsifiers. And what that means is that they have a very long side chain of fatty acid. So it's a non-polar, like a lipid, like olive oil in your cupboard. And then the polar head group is a very polar molecule that is highly water soluble, like salt, for instance. But it's not salt, it's either a choline or an ethanolamine type structure. And what happens then is that you have this polar head group, which likes to be in the water, called hydrophilic, and you have this non-polar tail that likes to be in oil, which is the hydrophobic region. And that's what makes it a soap. And that's how, when you take a soap and you mix it, it can dissolve oil in water, because it's those fatty long chains of the soap that solubilize lipids in water. Now, in the human body, what happens is these things self-organize into what's called a phospholipid bilayer, which means the long non-polar side chains on one side organize with the side chains on the other side, and so that the center of the membrane becomes this very oily non-polar group. And then the outside becomes polar, and this will be either on the outside of the cell, which is the aqueous or water environment, and the inside of the cell, which is also a water environment. Now, these membranes have various structural qualities in your body, because they're not all exactly the same. And depending upon the composition of these phospholipids, these membranes can be either fluid or rigid. And so plasmalogens are one of these types of phospholipids. And they're really mostly involved in the brain, the white matter, which is the glial insulation of your neurons. And they're also involved at the, very important, at the connection between two neurons called the synaptic cleft. And that's a switch that connects one biological neuron to the next biological neuron. And they're heavily involved in there. What makes plasmalogens unique versus normal or other phospholipids is that they have a special bond that gives them extra fluidity and allows membrane fusion and other processes in the body to occur. So when plasmalogens get decreased, what happens is membranes become more stiff and rigid, and they don't function properly. And then the other part about membranes is that there's proteins in your body, and these proteins are embedded in the membrane. So when the membrane structure changes, a lot of your biological functions change. So that's what plasmalogens are. So plasmalogens are a critical component of the membranes in the human body. Their highest concentrations are in the brain and in the heart, your lungs, your kidney, and the retina of your eye. They also have other qualities in terms of antioxidation and free radical scavenging capabilities. So that is fundamentally what a plasmalogen is.